Welcome to Politics for Happy People, where we have fun conversations about very serious issues, sometimes less serious. But that's what we do around here. We're glad to have you with us. I'm Joseph Backholm, joined as always by Ashley Vaughn. Ashley, good to see you again.
Hey, Joseph.
Let's do this thing, Ashley, because we are always trying to balance outrage with reasonable concern. How do we keep our joy and still be aware and alert and part of the solution?
Putting it all into perspective.
How upset should you be today? The subject is the SAVE Act. You know the SAVE Act. I know that you do. It is the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, and it is a federal piece of legislation that requires documentary proof of citizenship, typically in the form of a passport or birth certificate, to register to vote in federal elections. And the broader Save America Act version adds a photo ID requirement to vote. So this is kind of the whole discussion. Should people have to prove their identity to vote? This is the general idea. You like it or you don't?
I do like it.
You don't. Okay.
It's critically important.
Well, a lot of people agree with you. Some of them are in Congress. The House has passed this more than once, an initial version in April of 2025, again in February of 26 by a narrow 218 to 213 vote margin. So it's basically a partisan issue. The problem for its supporters has been the Senate. It's stalled there. Part of the reason it stalls, well, not part of the reason, all of the reason is because in the Senate, you need 60 votes to get past a filibuster. Now, there's some procedural challenges here. The filibuster in the Senate requires 60 votes, which is, of course, more than a majority. There's a workaround procedurally, which is a reconciliation vote. And as long as there's a budget impact, the budget only requires 50 votes in the Senate. So they've kind of restructured the SAVE Act in a way to try to fit it into this budget process. And what they would say is they would incentivize states to have photo ID rules rather than require them. No state would be required to do it, but states that do it could get part of the $10 billion set aside for incentivizing states to do this. And that would allow it to pass by 50 votes. Now, as we record this today, things are happening this week. We don't know what the status of this will be when people are listening to this. But to our how upset should you be question, Ashley, on a scale of 1 to 10. If the SAVE Act does not become law, so photo ID is not required when people go to the ballots this November or any November in the future, how upset will you be?
You want 1 to 10?
1 to 10.
Okay, I'm going to go with 7.
That's pretty upset.
Decently upset, but not as upset as I would be if some kind of pro-life provision got thrown out.
It's not quite there for you, but
yeah,
I'm probably
Where are you?
About there with you. I think proving your identity before you vote is important. Not because I'm convinced that every single election has been changed, but I think the lack of it the lack of this requirement and the integrity that it provides to the system provides increasing vulnerability to future elections as well. And it just is so common sense to me that if you're going to vote, all the things we require identification for, to buy alcohol, you have to provide your driver's license in most places. And the idea that it is an unreasonable burden to require that for voting doesn't make sense to me. So yeah, it's an integrity thing.
A lot of the opponents of the SAVE Act say that non-citizen voting is vanishingly rare. This doesn't happen, guys. We don't need to pass this because we don't have non-citizens voting and changing election results. And it's funny, the amount of time that I've been in this space, Joseph, whenever you're against something but you don't really have a good argument, you just say, well, this isn't happening,
Correct.
Or this is so rare. But I have a rebuttal to that.
Okay.
Give
it to us.
Think about how close elections can be. think about how few votes often decide who is in office. And I will take you through a tiny little walk through recent North Carolina history with some examples to make this point. In 2020, Chief Justice of the North Carolina Supreme Court, Paul Newby, won over Sherry Beasley by 401 votes. So that's a statewide race. It was over 5 million votes, and it was decided by only 401. And that's a pretty important office. In 2022, North Carolina House District 115, in the Republican primary, Pratik Bhakta, I think that's how you pronounce his name, won over someone named Sherry Higgins by 1 vote. So this is a smaller number of votes, and it's a primary, but that's just 1 vote. Okay, in 2024, Justice Allison Riggs won over Judge Jefferson Griffin for North Carolina Supreme Court by 734 votes. Okay, again, statewide race, millions and millions and millions of votes. And most recently, 2026 Senate President Phil Berger in Senate District 26, he conceded to Sam Page, the Rockingham County Sheriff, after being behind by only 23 votes. And because Senator Berger was the Senate president, this has a massive effect on the political landscape in North Carolina. So, considering how close these elections can be, and I understand that the examples that I just gave aren't federal races, but the point still stands. We need to do everything possible to make sure that every lawful vote counts and no ineligible votes are included in the count, because it can overturn results.
That's exactly right. And the principle of it is, I think, worth defending all by itself. Let's just make sure that the people who are actually legal voters, actually invested in the system, are the ones making the decision. So I think that principle is worth defending all by itself. And the way we have decided to do that in all sorts of ways is prove your identity. And it is
the principle is worth defending, but it can also make a functional difference.
Correct.
That is my point.
And I'll say there was a state delegate race in Virginia, our neighbors to the north, decided by a coin flip because it was tied. Literally tied. The winner was determined by a coin flip, and if memory serves, and forgive me if I'm wrong on this, I think that actually decided the balance of the power in one of their chambers. Was an actual tied vote, right? So
that seems pretty old-fashioned.
One vote would have made the difference, but that was the process, right?
Right.
That's the rules. They had no other way. They had no other way of resolving this. That's how they did it. And another thing I'll say is, to the argument that that you haven't proven that these have made a difference in a ton of elections. One of the challenges with that is the places that do not require voter ID are also the places where there is not the information is not available to actually verify whether the vote is valid or not. So you cannot prove a negative, because when you don't ask for voter ID and you're not comparing signatures, you have no idea who did it. It's possible. Can I prove that it was fraud? No. Is it possible that it was? Sure. The problem is nobody knows, and there's no way of verifying that this is the person who it's claimed to be, and the person who it's claimed to be actually is the person who filled out the ballot. Can you know that? And we should have a system that allows us to prove that happened. So we're not leaning on, well, you can't prove it was fraud. Of course we can't prove it was fraud, because you don't have any of the information that would allow us to verify it's not. So we just don't know. And so, yes, the integrity of the system requires it. If you want to think about it in biblical terms, let's just be above reproach, right? It's accountability. Make sure there's light on it. We should not just say it doesn't matter and let's just trust everybody, because the reason why, the deodorant is locked up at Walgreens is because you can't trust everybody.
Well, there is evidence that there are issues with non-citizens being registered to vote. The Department of Homeland Security has been reviewing voter registration files from almost 24 states, and they flagged thousands of voter files as being potentially non-citizens who have registered. So, again,
well, and you have cities like New York openly talking about the possibility of allowing non-citizens to vote because they want them to vote, right?
So it's
not
New York
like
right now.
It's not like the left doesn't want non-citizens to vote. Many of them say it out loud. And so this idea that it even theoretically could happen, in one hand, they're saying, yeah, we want this to happen. And then on the other hand, they're saying it can never happen. You can't have it both ways. So how outraged should we be about this? You and I are both fairly outraged about this, and you can decide for yourselves. But the big story of today, Auditor Dave Boliek uncovers crazy spending around the state. And today we're going to focus on the great city of Cary.
Have you been to Cary?
Of course. I live close to Cary.
Familiar with Cary?
My kids play sports in Cary.
Suburbia.
Fairly recently.
It's
yes.
a nice place.
It's, as somebody who moved into the state, it's the...
What is it? What's your impression of Cary?
Well, the acronym of Cary, right? It's the Relocated Yankees. What one is that?
There are a couple different ones. Can't afford Raleigh yet.
Can't afford Raleigh yet is Cary, but it's also the collection area of relocated Yankees.
That's it. Yeah.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
And
that's
that's
not entirely incorrect.
That's exactly right, because there's a lot of people.
It's pleasant though. It's
a lovely town.
Clean.
Yeah, it's a lovely town. And they have an amphitheater, and I've gone to concerts there. And nothing wrong with Cary. But new auditor, well, not that new anymore. As of 2024, Dave Boliek has been doing some audits of all sorts of things. One of which is how cities are spending money. And he did this in the city of Cary. And found some interesting things. The investigation was launched in late 2025 after former town manager Sean Stiegel's spending drew scrutiny. Public records surfaced in a series of major expenses that much of the town, that the town council said they didn't know about. Stiegel was placed on administrative leave in November of 2025. He resigned about a month later amid allegations of over-the-top spending, inadequate financial reporting, an unhealthy work environment, and a lack of transparency with the council, staff, and the public. Now, this is regarding the town manager. Let's put the town manager. Who in the world is the town manager? Because some people have never heard of a town manager. We know that most cities have mayors, most cities have city councils, and the town manager in most places is somebody that is chosen, hired by the mayor or the city council to kind of do the CEO work.
So not an elected person, but an employee of the city council.
I cannot say definitively in no town in America is the town manager elected, but my understanding of that position is
not elected in Cary. I know that. I looked it up. Yeah,
and not elected in Cary in this case. So Sean Stiegel, the gentleman in this conversation, was not elected. Now there were some interesting expenditures from the city of Cary. More than $1 million for land near Cary Elementary School, purchased against the assistant town manager's recommendations and without the full council's knowledge. So apparently the guy bought $1 million piece of real estate.
Okay.
I don't know what the purpose of that is. That was not described exactly. This one is interesting. $121,000 on video production for the town's 2024 retreat in Wilmington, which included a surprise staff dance performance, which they put on video.
Do we have clips of this?
We should have uncovered that. We're going to have to do a follow-up report on this story and include the staff dance performance from the city of Cary.
The craziest part is what comes next, though.
Yes. Go ahead.
$35,000 more for a documentary about how the video was made.
Yeah.
Who's watching this?
$35,000 on a documentary about a video about the 2024 retreat
of the town council.
In Wilmington. I have no idea. I have no other explanation, but the reason this is on the list is because the auditor's office seemed
and
to
all
think
the videographers around the state are. Can I get the number for the?
How do I
Town
get this
council?
deal? That's right. I'd like to go work for the city of Cary. $65,000 paid to a ghostwriter for a book about Stiegel. This is awesome because again, Stiegel is the town manager, and the town paid someone $65,000 to write a book about the town manager.
It's a ghostwriter, though. So the book was authored by him.
Was he okay? That might be right. I don't know. I don't know that if this was like autobiographical and he was the named author, or if they were like it was a memoir by the city of Cary about their author, their town manager.
The book is called Top of the Ark.
Oh,
it is.
Did you read it?
No, I did not read the entire book. I didn't. But it's about local governments and the people they serve, building the future together in more innovative, adaptive, and efficient ways.
So is it actually not about him, or is
it is kind of lauding him as a change agent and the work that he was doing and his model?
Okay. Well,
for managing.
So the allegation is
Town of
certainly
Cary.
that it was self-serving and to pay $65,000 to write a book about him, which presumably he used to promote himself. So, okay, sketchy. $37,000 in graduate school tuition paid on behalf of council member Lori Bush. Full disclosure, she later reimbursed the town. But how does one get to a situation where the city that you are a council member of is paying for your graduate school tuition? I don't know how that develops. I mean, who even makes the ask?
What's the degree? I mean, is there any degree that you would say is necessary to be a council member? I don't think so.
No, I mean, yeah. Is it like?
I mean, if you're not equipped, maybe we should.
Is it like learning? What's the term I'm looking for? Professional development.
I don't know.
Professional development for the council members.
$37,000 of taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, that's a lot. Okay. Next item: $108,000 to mail flyers informing citizens of council district and election date changes. I mean, I'm not opposed to like notifications about election changes. I don't. This one shocks my sensibilities a little bit less, but $108,000 for mail.
It's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money. So
Okay.
I'd need more information. But
the next one is more bothersome. $3,419 penthouse hotel stay for Stiegel, plus other luxury hotel stays and hotel cancellation and no-show fees. Okay, let's put this in context. I have a question for you, Joseph, to guess.
yes.
How much do you think was Sean Stiegel's salary, his yearly salary, as Cary town manager? Now, I'll put it in context.
Okay.
He oversaw 1,300 town employees and a total budget of $500 million. So, what was his salary?
$300,000.
$381,000 a year. Okay.
That's not bad.
That's a huge salary.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
It is. Yeah, that's about the president.
Okay, and then the town is paying $3,400 for a penthouse stay?
Well, I'm sure he just booked it and I think he clearly thought it was justified because he's important in his mind. I mean, all of this, there's clearly an error of self-importance. I don't think the town booked it. I think he booked it and then just put it on the travel expense.
Exactly, though. Yeah. Exactly. How is that justifiable?
Oh, it isn't. Unless you just really like yourself and think you deserve for the public and think the public should like you as much as you do. I mean, that's my interpretation.
Well, and you just hit on an important point, though, because evidently the town council is saying that they didn't know a lot about what his discretionary spending.
Yeah, and all of this comes from a lack of accountability, and that's kind of one of the theses of this. And Dave Boliek is kind of that's why he's doing what he's doing, to try to just raise awareness of these things. Because if you are in an environment where nobody's asking questions, I got away with that. What else could I get away with? Right? He probably didn't start off. Do we even know how long he was the town manager? Because I don't know that information, and maybe we can look it up. But my thesis would be that, if he had been the town manager for many years, and enough where he thought he had done enough to write books about himself, or at least have them written, that early on, this probably wasn't happening. But
2016.
That wasn't that long.
Until 2025.
Okay, maybe he always did it this way. But yes, the idea that the taxpayers should pay $3,500 for me to stay in a penthouse is a bit self-important. And it just goes to the question of, is this, we used to refer to these folks as public servants, as those who work for and now the reality is government jobs are the good jobs for so many people.
He should be paid a fair market value for the work that he's doing. But I do think fluff things like a penthouse and just wasteful spending rightfully
it's not stewardship.
It's not stewardship. It rightfully is upsetting, especially when you consider that Cary voted to raise property taxes in this amount of time. And so, and it's to fund good things like police and fire and all of that.
And penthouses. Wasn't that in the actual,
we need to use some
measure?
of this money in wiser ways. And it goes back to, this is sort of, it is kind of a biblical concept. Like if you are the person if the consequences shape behavior. If it's your money, you're the one that stands to lose when it's spent wrongfully, then you're going to be more responsible with it. If you're spending someone else's money wastefully and you don't feel the pain from that, things go wild,
To me, it's all about attitude and what this reveals. I'm going to spend money to write a book about myself. I'm comfortable expensing $3,400 in a penthouse hotel stay is the idea that I deserve this. Not that I'm here to serve the public and provide a good to my community, but that somehow I'm entitled to this and this is appropriate for them to spend in this way on me personally. That to me is an attitude. And it's one that's not, we'll get into this maybe in a moment, but I just think this is kind of pervasive in the world we used to refer to as public service, where it really is self-importance, platform building.
It is platform building when you're using town money to have a ghostwriter write a book about you that you are then the author of, and the book is basically lauding his work. He's portrayed as this change agent, and look what all we've done for Cary, and these are our results, and follow our model. And then the book's on sale on the Town of Cary's online store. Evidently, I read that.
I can't imagine they sold that many copies. Who really? What is the market?
Still, though, it's kind of
local
like
government.
This is
management
resume building and platform making.
Yeah. It's, and again, to me, it's the attitude.
If you want to do that, you need to spend your own money doing it. If you want a ghostwriter to write a book for you where you can tell about all the great things you've done, fine. But pay for it yourself.
There might be a less cynical framing of this where really it's just about the city. And maybe Cary did some things that are, and maybe this is not giving him the benefit of the doubt, and the book was actually just about city government and city management, and maybe they have some things to teach people, and I don't know, because I'm not in city government, and maybe there are some other city government leaders around the country who would say, actually, Cary is a model for this. We asked them to write this.
It is a nice place.
Some things. Cary's it's a nice
But it was
town.
nice before 2016.
Yeah, so I don't know.
It's not like he overhauled Cary, and it was horrible before then.
But
he
in
revitalized it. Like he inherited a place that was running just fine.
Well, that could be true. And the next one we'll go to is $1,600 for 10 pairs of Ray-Ban sunglasses. I don't. And an annual car allowance of $9,600 per council member. $802 a month per council member for a car allowance. I don't know. That's a pretty nice car.
Yeah.
What can you get for $800? I've never dreamt I would.
I bet you can lease something really nice for that amount.
Yeah, you can. Oh yeah, you can. And so do we think as taxpayers that we are paying for paying car allowances for our city council members? Now they have to get around and do things. I don't know. Is that less expensive than the mileage reimbursements? And there's an argument for that because I've been in situations where I drive so much that it's actually cheaper for the employer to pay for the vehicle itself rather than pay the 60 cents a mile or whatever you drive. So, I mean, I'm willing to listen to the argument if they really are beating the street that much, but Cary's not that big of a place. So how many miles can you put on the ground just driving around Cary in your official capacity? So
That's true.
maybe not. So all of this to say, there's some questionable expenses. Certainly that's what the auditor found, but it's also important to note that this has become potentially a criminal matter, that there has been the State Bureau of Investigation has opened its own probe at the recommendation of Wake County District Attorney Lauren Freeman. So it's sketchy as to stewardship responsibilities. The Wake County District Attorney Lauren Freeman thinks it might even be more than that. And if they can prove that, then all of my attempts to perhaps give the benefit of the doubt with respect to some of these things may be for naught. Do you think this kind of spending should be a crime, Ashley?
I think that I think it's unethical. Do I think it should be a crime? That's a different question.
Well, it could be just theft. If you're taking public money for personal use, that's, you do that from your neighbor in a different way. It's a crime.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can certainly see the argument. Now, this kind of thing to me seems common. But what I'm not sure I understand is whether it seems common because Somali daycares, questionable spending in Cary, when these things happen, they get a lot of attention. But is that overstating the nature of the problem, do you think? In most cities, people are being responsible, they're being ethical, they're not using their public positions for their own personal gain. Is this the exception or the rule, you think?
I don't know how common it is, but I do think it should get as much or more attention than it already has been, because it is a stewardship issue. This money is being confiscated by the government, and it should be going to purposes that benefit the public good. And I said it before and I'll say it again, I think whoever is the town manager should be paid for their skills. And it is a big job. 1,300 town employees and a total budget of over $500 million. They should be paid well.
That's
for that
a real
job.
professional job, for sure.
But the market value for that job should be determined, and that should set their salary. And then there should be guidelines and restrictions to make sure that there isn't wasteful fluff spending that is footed by the taxpayers.
That's right. Now, this is the one that's getting the most attention, and I know that it is not the only city that has been audited by the auditor's office. And that, to me, suggests that in some of these other audits, he's discovering that people are above board, and they have a process that makes sure that expenditures are justifiable and pre-approved and not opulent or totally personal. And I want to believe that's happening in most cases. And I do get concerned when we get appropriately outraged by examples of this, of like abuse, that we just assume everybody who's working for their local government is trying to exploit something in someone. And I don't think that that's true. I don't want to believe that's true. And I have to think there's a lot of
just
them doing
knowing that someone is checking, though, is a really good thing in our state. Just knowing that Auditor Boliek is looking into these things, I think, is going to make everyone think twice. Hopefully, if you're wise and you realize, it's kind of like when mom's away, the kids will play. And it's human nature. Like, if I don't give my children consequences, I promise you, they are far less likely to follow the rules or to be conscious of what they should be doing. So hopefully, at least him looking into these things, holding a press conference, exposing some of these expenses that I think many taxpayers, I've given my opinion a little bit. I do think it's unethical. It's fluffy spending. It's wasting other people's money. I do think a lot of people hearing about exactly what these charges are going to are going to feel the same way.
Sunlight is good for us, right? And it's kind of the old Ronald Reagan trust but verify thing. And I think if there's a theme to our show today, it's that, right? When we talk about voter ID, you're probably registered to vote, trust but verify. City managers, city spending, trust but verify. It's our state budget. It's all of those things, right? It's because
it is the responsible thing to do.
It is the responsible thing to do. And none of us should be afraid of that unless you want to do something that you shouldn't be doing. And that's that when you're running from accountability, generally it's because you want to be able to do something that you don't want people to know about. So I think that's the theme here. The human nature is one where sin exists everywhere. We're all tempted to it. And many of us will choose to do the thing we can get away with.
And accountability is loving.
It is. It keeps us out of the ditch.
Yeah.
Right. And and
we need each other.
I don't know how.
We need guardrails.
Right. In town city manager Stiegel, I mean, I don't want the guy on a personal. I got no personal axe to grind. I don't want him to go to prison. But if this turns out to be like a criminal thing, then he needed that accountability to for his own good as well as the good of the city, right? And that's the nature of community and laws and order and accountability and all of those things. Sometimes accountability doesn't feel good, but the reason we're parents is we want to keep our kids from killing each other and ending up in jail. That's why we provide accountability, right? So all of those things are good. It's good to have an auditor who audits. Everything I've seen from Dave Boliek so far has been, consistent and ethical, and I love that it's happening, and it's also intentional.
He's doing a great job,
and aggressive, and I like that. So here's to more of it, but here's to also hopefully finding out that in most of our cities around the state, that everybody is doing things the way they should be done. So, last question before we end our program today, Ashley. Bet you didn't know. This is kind of personal, but I think there's going to be a broader application. I was recently going through my grandfather's high school yearbook.
Okay.
I'm shocked I didn't know this, and I'll explain why in a moment. But I'm going to give you a guess. I'm going to give you maybe even a few. What was my grandfather's high school mascot? And I will give you a clue in that no school today would dream of making this their high school mascot. What was
I'm thinking of
their high school mascot?
Controversial. Okay. Well, they did away with the Redskins. So was it an Indian?
It was not.
Okay. What else is controversial that they may have used in the past?
I think you will never guess this. So I will probably tell you.
Okay, tell me.
The swastikas.
The actual mascot was a swastika?
In 1936, the mascot of Hoquiam High School, and I went to the rival high school, Aberdeen High School. This is on the coast of Washington.
Okay.
Was the swastikas.
Okay, wait. Did it, was it a personified swastika? Did it have a face?
No.
Okay.
No, it was just
swastika.
the swastika,
Okay.
as you know the swastika to be.
Okay.
Now.
Wait, what year was this?
This is, he graduated from high school in 1936. And of course, the high school had been around for long before that, right?
Okay.
So we're talking decades in which it is the Hoquiam swastikas.
Okay.
That was their high school mascot. Now, I think there's some things to learn about history here because what do we associate the swastikas with, of course?
Nazi Germany.
Is the Nazis. And the fact that is true is why when I attended the rival Aberdeen High School, the fact that I did not know their original mascot was the swastikas, we missed so many names.
Nobody wanted you to know.
Every high school kid from Aberdeen should be harassing every Hoquiam high school kid with Nazi chants just because that's the true history. And I assure you, I have notified my hometown of this fact upon recently discovering
Stirring it up.
So, but before the Nazis kind of co-opted the swastika, we need to understand that's what happened because there's a lesson to be learned here about symbols, right? Mm-hmm. Because previous to this, in the late 19th and 20th centuries, Western archaeologists discovered the symbol of the swastika in the ruins of ancient Troy. Because they found it on artifacts from diverse regions, they theorized a shared Indo-European history. Consequently, the swastika became a popular symbol of good luck and prosperity in Western culture, appearing on Coca-Cola products, Boy Scout badges,
Oh, gosh.
and early American military patches. So the Boy Scouts, prior to Nazi Germany, were putting swastikas on their patches because it was a popular symbol of luck and prosperity. It originates from the Sanskrit word svastika, which translates to "it is well," well-being, or good fortune.
So it used to mean good luck and prosperity, and
Yes.
now it means evil.
Genocide.
Yeah, genocide.
Essentially,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah.
and it is whenever somebody is looking for the kind of personification or representation of evil, the default reference is the Nazis and Hitler. There are other people who have killed more people. Mao has killed many more people, did kill many more people than Hitler. So we recognize him as an evil guy as well. Lots of other, Stalin did as well, but Hitler, for whatever reason, because they were genuinely evil, they're the personification of this. But it's worth understanding that that wasn't always the meaning and the significance of the swastika.
Well, a symbol is meant to communicate something.
Mm-hmm.
Words communicate, obviously, but symbols also communicate. And what is communicated depends on the shared meaning that everyone holds for that symbol, right? So if I put up a swastika today, no one would think that I was meaning good luck and prosperity.
Not
The
at all.
shared meaning of the swastika now is Nazi Germany, genocide,
Correct.
pure evil, right?
Correct.
And so if that's what I'm communicating, because that's what everyone thinks, right? No one is gonna assume that I mean good luck and prosperity. It's just it is interesting. I mean, I think about the cross.
Mm-hmm.
Back in ancient Rome, to them that was a symbol of torture, death, execution,
That's right.
humiliation. And now to us, because of Jesus' death on the cross, he defeated death when he was resurrected. For us as Christians, it's a symbol of hope, and we wear it proudly. So the meaning was inverted. So the meaning of a symbol has very much to do with context and also the shared interpretation in that community around that symbol.
How strange would it be if we wore necklaces with electric chairs or nooses on them, right? And that's kind of the equivalent. And so I think there's a couple things to just be aware of is how careful we need to be of judging history through modern eyes. Because I in this discovery of mine, I saw these pictures of the high school basketball teams, and the only thing on their like unitards that they would wear as basketball uniforms is the swastika in the middle of their chest. And if you took that picture and you showed it to anybody in the 21st century, they would just condemn and judge and rail against these group of high school basketball players from Oakland, Washington, who actually, in fact, would later go to Europe to defeat the Nazis. Because that was my grandfather's generation. He graduated from high school in 1936. He served in World War II to defeat the Nazis.
Yeah.
When he came from the Hoquiam swastikas high school, right? That is the reality of it. So we have to be very careful about how we judge history, because we very often don't understand context.
And intentions matter. No one who wore that swastika intended to communicate anything about
Because the
being
context
in
was so different.
support of genocide or anything like that. That was not their intent.
And so ask questions before you make
Yes.
strong judgments
Yes.
historically. Make sure that you know what was going on, rather than in reaction in the reaction world that we live in. But also, the point that you made about symbols and something happening in the opposite direction right now with the sexual revolution and the rainbow, right? What
another
did
example.
the symbol of the rainbow, what God created that to be, and what He tells us that is in Scripture, and then what it has become and risks being co-opted by a movement that is the opposite of what God intended that to be. So, They hide that history, which is why I think I didn't know about it. I think we understand why they do, but there's reason to know that history and understand it. And of course, we aren't mad at my grandfather and his classmates because their mascot was the swastikas, because obviously everything was different. But just live with the humility to know that things are different, and maybe that's what it means, and maybe not. Take the time to gather information before you fire up the outrage machine, which is what we're so inclined to do. So, friends, thank you for joining us today on Politics for Happy People. It's been a pleasure. Glad you're on the ride with us. Reminder, new episodes every Tuesday and every Friday. Like and subscribe where you have found us so you don't miss the next one. We'll see you then.